Welcome to A Year in the Bible with Daily Grace. The Bible tells one big story of redemption, and we want to spend 5 minutes every day journeying through the Bible from start to finish and exploring how all of it points to Jesus.
Hello, friends. Welcome to A Year in the Bible with Daily Grace. My name is Katie, and we are going to start and finish Nahum today. Nahum is a collection of poems in the Minor Prophet that declares the defeat of Nineveh, the Assyrian capital. Assyria was a large empire that conquered the northern tribes of Israel. They were destructive, brutal, and violent in their conquest, oppressing God's people. Nahum describes Nineveh as the city of blood, totally deceitful, full of plunder, and never without prey. The book of Nahum announces judgment for Nineveh's wicked ways. God used Assyria's reign to humble his people. They were blatantly sinning against him. But Nahum is a reminder that God does not abandon his chosen. In fact, the name Nahum actually means comfort, as it reminds God's people that hope is in Yahweh. Though Nahum is only 3 chapters in length, the book provides an incredible insight into the character of God. Even in the first 8 verses, Nahum reminds Judah of God's power and his might. He echoes Exodus 34, God's own description of himself, a God merciful and gracious, slow to anger, but will by no means clear the guilty. A theme that is emphasized throughout Nahum is God's justice. We see God described as jealous, avenging, fierce in wrath, and great in power. But also, in verse 7, we see that God is also good, a stronghold in the day of distress, and he cares for those who take refuge in him. God is the both and. He punishes evil, but also nurtures those who trust in him. And so Nahum continues warning Nineveh of its coming demise. I can imagine Judah's relief hearing Nahum's prophecy. I am sure that living under this cruel oppression felt never-ending, a weight that's almost unbearable. Nahum reminded God's people of their Savior. In chapters 2 and 3, Nahum describes vividly the destruction of Nineveh. Walls will tumble, wealth is plundered, armies flood the streets. The Assyrians are described as vicious lions, filling their dens with prey. Nahum even describes them as treating nations and clans like merchandise. Well, the Lord makes his feelings toward them abundantly clear. Beware, I am against you. This is the declaration of the Lord of armies. He repeats this twice. Nineveh will be devastated and humbled, with no one to help them from surrounding nations. Their beauty will turn to ash. Their leaders will be bound in chains. Fire will devour their gates, and locusts will eat their land. Nahum finishes by addressing the king of Assyria directly. He prophesies that he will be bound up severely with no one to help him. His nation will be scattered, and surrounding tribes will celebrate the end of his life. God's wrath against Assyria is severe. Nahum is a reminder of God's hatred of sin. If we're being truthful, we all deserve to be humbled just like Nineveh. Romans 3 reminds us that there is no one righteous, not even one. All have turned away, and they will together become worthless. There is no one who does good, not even one. We have all lifted other things above God: status, wealth, security, relationships. It can go on and on. We are adulterous people, but Jesus took on the wrath of our just God. Sin could not go unpunished, and Jesus bore the brutality that we deserved on the cross. Every sin that you ever committed, every sin that you ever will commit, is covered by Jesus' sacrifice for us, once and for all. As we reflect on Nahum, let's remember Nahum 1:7. For those who choose him, choose to submit their lives under his Son, find a stronghold on the day of distress. He will care for them. Yes, God's wrath burns hot against our sin. But for those who trust in Jesus, we are exalted as sons and daughters. But what does the book of Nahum mean for us today? Well, it's a reminder of how grateful we should be that the Lord is just. Since the fall, sin has manifested into oppression and evil that seems to run rampant everywhere. Nahum reminds us that these unspeakable crimes against God's creation don't go unpunished. He will not tolerate sin forever. We are reminded that judgment is not up to us, but it's in the hands of our God, who simultaneously wipes our tears and disciplines our oppressors. Watching evil on earth is disheartening. It's anger-inducing. It seems unfair. But Nahum reminds us that the Lord is still near. He will redeem our world to perfection at the right time. We can look to Jesus, who will come again to redeem everything in his name. We can cling to the promise offered in Nahum 1:7. He will indeed care for those who take refuge in him.